What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Birds podcast. Coming off yet another Eagles victory. Light work for our Birds. Once again, we have John and Vince from the Bell and the Bird crew in the house. John, how was LA?
You West Coasters can fucking party. Holy shit. Just honest, Vince Quinn was like totally smashed walking into SoFi because he had that delicious West Coast Swoop Nation Kelly Green tequila drink. And he's like, oh, this will be fine after consuming like low balls, high balls, beers, and is, completely inebriated. It was great to see Vince having a good time. Taylor, I'm sure, had a good time too because he walked up to my section incorrectly twice. So it was an awesome time. Gotta say, quick stadium review. The views are incredible at SoFi. Buy into that hype. It is so nice. There was a beautiful breeze. Like we were up in the very last row, right on the 50-yard line, the 500 section. Beautiful breeze coming in. It was really nice to see the defense dominant in this one for sure. But man, pretty overhyped stadium in terms of experiencing game day. Like it's pretty bare bones. Otherwise, the concessions were pretty reasonable. But yeah, I don't know how you felt, Vince, but it was lackluster during the game, and everything else before that I thought was awesome.
Well, yeah, you only have 20 fans, the Rams.
Yeah.
I think you guys brought more
it.
Eagles fans there than they have fans, so...
Yeah, that's pretty much how it went. I mean, there were a ton of Eagles fans in the building, and then if it wasn't a Rams fan, there was a lot of empty seats too. So it was pretty crazy how the whole thing went. I mean, in terms of my experience, yeah, I pretty much browned out for the first half. I mean, I don't know what else to say. John did catch me slurring at halftime because I drank a whole cup of tequila on my way into the stadium, so that was good. I tend to black out in LA. That's just my vibe. I blacked out for the Wentz game where he tore his ACL in 2017. So, yeah, that's just how I do football on the West Coast. But other than that, I did rewatch the game, so I know what the hell happened. And so we're good. But, yeah, man, it was crazy out there. People were awesome. Stadium was fun to walk around in. I had a great time. Just had a great time. It was so awesome to see everybody.
Yeah, and I don't know, how did it feel on the broadcast trail? Because, like, in the moment, I thought everything was awesome. I don't really have any major complaints except for that pesky red zone offense, which I'm sure we're going to be talking about for the next 12 weeks. But Jalen Carter is a freak. I thought the huge mistake of Desai going with Goodrich and Hicks in the beginning to cover Cooper Kupp was really dumb. But after that, I was like, all right, fuck that. After the first drive, Slayer on him. Okay, that's not working. Let's adjust at halftime and go kick some ass. And they did. I was very satisfied with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I said this on Twitter during the game, and this is kind of how I felt. At one point, I wanted to tweet that Jalen Carter might be the best player on a team that went to the Super Bowl last year as a rookie. But I was so nervous anytime the defense was on the field, I felt like I was going to throw up, so I forgot to tweet it. And this was in the third quarter, which is really when they turned things around. Obviously, they just looked like a dominant team after a shaky start. They kind of have done what they've done all year. This was more of the same since that kind of the offense got out of the mud after the Patriots game. I felt like they were really in the mud in that first game. They kind of got warmed up. And now, as we've talked throughout the season, they've been able to move the ball wherever they would like, up and down the field. And then the defense, like you said, they made some adjustments, and in the second half they ended up shutting them out, I believe, and they showed that they were the dominant team. I was worried all week coming into this game. To me, this was a classic trap game for the Eagles, riding high off 4-0, going on the road all the way across the country. And even though you do have that home field advantage again for the fourth straight week, I'm sure Roger Goodell will investigate that, as the Eagles have had 4 straight home games now, basically. But the thing that I felt going into this game was, you have Cooper Kupp coming back off the injury. You have a team that has a ton of dynamic weapons that has these kind of guys that have killed the Eagles. And you have a great pocket passer in Matthew Stafford and a coach in Sean McVay. And in the first half, I think that proved to be the case, that they were kind of struggling to slow down that offense. And then the second that the defensive line was able to get some pressure, when Jalen Carter started to break through, when Hassan Reddick was able to get into the backfield, Josh Sweat Stafford started to rush things. He started to sail some balls. And that defense was, the second half defense was, outside of probably the Tampa game where they dominated from end to end, the best defensive performance I've seen from the team all season.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there was, man, like, I'm just so excited about what Jalen Carter is going to end up being, especially like, hey, we're now just a tick and a quarter. Tick and a quarter? What the hell am I? A 1920s man trying to sell a newspaper right now? We're just a tick ahead of you know, a quarter way through the year. And I don't know. I think at almost 4 sacks now, we're still staring at that rookie record. That's I was kind of joking when I was saying, like, yeah, go break fucking Reggie sack record. But man, it looks like it could happen. That was the first time I think we've seen him at 70% of the snaps because of Fletcher Cox's injury.
Yep.
It didn't seem to slow down Jordan Davis at all. I know Vince Quinn wants to say something right now with 50% of the snaps, but that to me is like the new future. Now, when Fletcher comes back into that rotation, it's only going to make him more dangerous, allow him to gas himself out because, you know, he likes to do that anyway with limited snaps. Having Cox around like 30 or 40%, depending on who you're playing, is just a nasty rotation. And also getting lost in this mix, Milton Williams has been outstanding fucking all year. And the only reason why we're not talking about him is because the other guys are doing so good, so more well-established in terms of names and hype and too. But man, don't want to get him lost in the shuffle. The whole D-line is playing amazing. I would even say Moreau to this point has exceeded anybody's expectations on a guy who thought like, this dude isn't going to be around. Plus now the Nakobe Dean hater will even say the window's open for him now. So I would assume they want him back for the Dolphins game to try and handle most of that speed just to have a rotation in there. But man, Vince Quinn, I am fucking really excited about the defense, man. Like, sorry, Shio Kapadia. I know you were trying to squeeze that shit out about like people missing Jonathan Gannon or people thinking that like, no way, not for a second. Desai knows what he's doing. He knows how to adjust. He's really smart. Go ahead.
In Shields' defense, he said he was predicting this was going to be a take. He was not saying himself that it was going to be a take. He was saying
even really a take. So ESPN put up some numbers and said, "Oh, look, is Jonathan Gannon really a problem?" No one in Philadelphia thought for a second that this would be an issue. That's all. I thought he was trying to say that.
He was crediting Howie Roseman and the easy schedule against a bunch of bad quarterbacks last year for the Eagles' defense being historically dominant, and that kind of skewing things in a way that made Jonathan Gannon look like this genius. And, you know, the takeaway that he felt as though by this point of the season, we would all be saying, oh, don't you miss Jonathan Gannon? And honestly, through the first few weeks, it felt like this defense was super vulnerable. They were showing some, especially in the pass game. But like you said, I think that they're turning a corner and they're figuring some things out.
Sorry, Shio. Sorry for misunderstanding your point. But
he was saying it was bullshit, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I don't know if Vince Quinn remembers, but certainly I think I don't know. It was, to me, it was mostly about that second half adjustment, and plus like the other thing when we don't talk about Desai is just the amount of different bodies he's had to deal with too. So I overall I think it's been incredibly impressive.
Yeah, no, he's shuffling a lot of different things, and I think when you look at what this is and the adjustment they had to make, because when you're looking at Puka and Cooper Kupp, I mean, honestly, it's one of the best wide receiver duos in the league.
Yep.
So when you're considering what this game is, elite offensive coach, great wide receivers, solid running game. Kyron Williams has been one of the best running backs in the league this year. So when you're piling up all that stuff, great warm up for San Francisco, if anything. I think it's a great way to just get a feel for like offensively how they're going to space you, attack you, quick stuff, a lot of slant work, all those kinds of things. Like it's just a good warm up. So to go through this, nail it the way that they did, make those adjustments, it's phenomenal. And then you look at the pass rush. I mean, yeah, like it's crazy with Jalen Carter because I mean, look, this guy was the best talent of the draft. He falls to 9th to historically the second best pass rush in the history of the league. Like, of course he's killing it. Everybody on this team is amazing. Sweat's been great. He's had forced fumbles and a couple of sacks. Reddick's got 3 sacks now, which he did in just 2 weeks when he's really started his season with the cast off. Like all these guys are just so good everywhere, and he's especially dominant anyway. So, like, of course he's killing it. It's a beautiful thing to see, and yeah, he's going to get double-digit sacks as a rookie defensive tackle, which it's going to double the record.
Yeah. I mean, he has been obviously a massive game changer up front. I think the fact that how we talked about it before the season when, Derek Barnett was asking for a trade and he said, sorry, we like to have some depth. We like to have some guys that we can rotate out there, especially when we have injuries. Like, look, does Derek Barnett drive us insane? Sure. But also he's a guy that, hasn't even really seen the field at all. And if there are any injuries throughout the course of a season, he's someone that you can plug in there and have some adequate play for stretches as well. So that's the one thing that I keep coming back to. And we will get to the 49ers eventually because I want to talk about their game against the Cowboys, but I think that the depth of this roster is being a little bit slept on for sure. I think the fact that they have guys that, whether it's the running back room or it's pretty much every position except for wide receiver, and we'll get to Quez Watkins as well.
And his waving hands in the end zone.
Well, that play and another play that drove me absolutely insane. But the top talent on this team, like I said, Jalen Carter is arguably been the best player on the team. Probably give the nod to Lane Johnson or Kelsey just because of their consistent performance, every single year. And they've been doing it for so long and they're still so elite and dominant up front. They have the most unstoppable play in the NFL. And then in addition to that, they also have, Lane Johnson still hasn't given up a sack since 2020. In that game, they basically neutralized Aaron Donald, who, is having a bounce back season after having a weird year last year, one of the greatest defensive players of all time. And having said all of that about all of those guys, A.J. Brown is just the best wide receiver that's ever been on the Eagles. I know that I know we haven't had the greatest history, outside of a year and a half of Terrell Owens. And, Deshaun was great, but, he was never one of the top guys in the league. A.J. Brown, what he did in that game for the third straight week, anywhere he wants to go on the field. I mean, he can serve as a deep threat. He is just elite on crosses. He is just incredible talent, and the way that he has been able to elevate his game consistently. He's still only 26 years old, and I'm hoping that he can continue to prove throughout the course of this season why he is a top in a league that is absolutely stacked with all-time wide receivers right now. He's arguably in the top 3 or 4 and continues to prove it every single week. And I'm so glad that connection between him and Hurts is getting back there, so there aren't fights between them on the sidelines.
A.J. Brown's amazing, dude. He's T.O. with hands. I mean, people don't remember this, but T.O. dropped a lot of passes. A.J. does not drop passes. I mean, that guy is phenomenal. And, one of the biggest things that's been a difference for them, it was really that first drive of the game. First drive of the game was textbook Eagles. This is exactly how they should play football. Everybody just rewatch that drive, and they should do this every time. Because what do you get? It's a mix of Dallas Goedert. You're seeing Hurts using his legs and all that kind of stuff. But A.J. Brown on the comeback route, he's so violent, and he's so good getting in and out of breaks that his ability to create that space, because on a comeback route, a lot of times guys catch that ball, they get tackled. He catches that ball. He's got 5 yards of space. He then turns around, and he can do whatever he wants. That's not a major yards after the catch play, and he makes it one every single time. And it's one of those rare things that they did it a lot last year. I think they just kind of, it's all new stuff. Brian Johnson getting acclimated, having to figure all this stuff out again. But once they figured that out again, which they really started doing maybe 2 weeks ago, it's really taken off, and that's where you're seeing all the numbers. So yeah, it's great to see him, because this thing, it's just, you see it everywhere. You're talking about depth of the roster and all those things, Trill. Devontae Smith had 1 catch for 6 yards. Doesn't matter. That's so devastating for so many teams when you've got AJ and Dallas who blows up and DeAndre Swift and all these different guys. It doesn't matter. You're stacked everywhere. It's playmakers everywhere. It's basically unbeatable.
Yes, and you ready for the slop, Trill?
I knew you were going to do it.
It's going to cause natural friction, and this is part of managing all these egos, and why today, I think, or whenever it was yesterday, Jason Kelsey's even leading on to say there's some fucking issues going on right now, and I'm going to keep it to myself on what I'm yelling at Nick Sirianni. And every time this comes up, we poo-poo it. AJ yelling in week 2 about the offense, oh, it's nothing. Well, I'm only seeing offensive guys fucking yelling at their coaches. And now Jason Kelsey's doing it in week 5. Is it still nothing? Fuck no. There is a major issue going on. No one wants to talk about it, nor identify it, by the way, and they're doing a really good job of doing that. But this is what's going to happen when you have Jalen Hurts, who's missing one, Quez Watkins, which I really don't care if he passes up a wide open Quez Watkins. That's not my issue. He's rolling that way anyway. My problem is you've got Kenny Gainwell in there for a walk-in touchdown, and you make the incredibly hard throw to Smitty based on what you guys were saying. I'm thinking the same thing. There's no way I'm not throwing to AJ or Smitty. There's no way. I think Dallas Goedert got some of this until this game. There's obviously tension that's brewing up in there. And I bet you soup to fucking nuts that offensive line, once it gets down to the 20s saying, stop fucking and put it in Jalen's hands, you have DeAndre Swift and you have us, stop fucking around. And that is the play calls that are not happening in between the 20s. You're seeing still a lot of shoving, a lot of QB draws, a lot of drawn up stuff to AJ, a lot of drawn up stuff to Smitty. Where's Dallas Goedert? Where's Swift? Where's all that? There is a lot of people to keep happy. And also, how much control does Brian Johnson or Nick Sirianni really have with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts? Probably not much, especially with Howie Roseman backing all of whatever you need. And I don't think it's really a good or bad thing, but we have to establish that it's there, right? Like, this team keeps on winning. None of the shit matters. That's just obvious. There's not been an Eagles team that has gone 5-0 back-to-back. The fact that they've done this after a Super Bowl loss is still mind-blowing to me. But no one's happy. On the offense, there's a lot of people that are pissed off on the offense. I don't know exactly why, but I'm going to assume it's because AJ Hurts, Smitty, someone has too much control from a player side, and it's pissing off the coaches and maybe the players too.
Well, if you want to go a little deeper here, I mean, you talked about how frustrated AJ was through 2 weeks and what have his numbers looked like the last few weeks, what have his targets looked like the last few weeks. There's certainly some legitimacy to that. I would think the fact that he had some early season frustration with the lack of targets, the lack of involvement in the offense, and ever since we've been feeding him like every single drive. Certainly the case. And I mean, even with Dallas Goedert, we were talking about early in the season, we were frustrated he wasn't more involved. And what did they do in this game? They made sure from the jump that he was involved.
And had one of the best catches in the game, too. Sorry, go ahead, Drew.
If you want to look at it from the optimistic standpoint, which I guess I have to be that, which is so funny coming from my Sixers podcast where I'm just constantly, just losing my mind over the team and so negative all the time. But to balance out, maybe some criticism and some skepticism, I just think that they're perfectionists, to be honest. I think they see how much talent they have on this team. I think they see that there is a major flaw on the team. It's something that you talked about, like this has been an issue since Sirianni got here, which is that red zone offense, and which is the fact that they are able to do whatever they would like to do in between the 20s. And when we get down there has been some frustration. There has been some inability to generate consistent offense. And look, if the running game is working, you're right. You should probably just lean on that. Jalen as a runner in this game was the best he's been by far all year. That was 100%. Something we were worried about early in the year. We thought he might have been injured. We thought he was being too conservative, even though, obviously you see what's happening with Shane Steichen's offense with Anthony Richardson. He gets hurt because they're doing a ton of design runs for him. But then you have Jalen, who's been very conservative until this game, and then anytime that they needed a first down in this game, anytime that they needed guaranteed yardage, Jalen was able to get them that either scrambling or on a design run, and he looked absolutely fantastic. And if that is something that you have in the red zone, along with one great running back and elite offensive line, just lean on that and have that be your bread and butter. And if you need to get those guys involved, because of some sort of, interpersonal stuff that's going on, don't force it. Just kind of let it come naturally, work off the play action, run pass options, whatever you need to do. I just think that they are, especially Kelsey, especially Hurts, they're perfectionists. Like they want to take care of business whenever they get the opportunity to, and it's been frustrating to them that there is one obvious hole in this team, and that's when they get inside the 20-yard line.
Yeah, I mean, it's not basketball in a way, right? Because, like, you think about it, in the NBA, what is it, all these big threes, and you have, like, certain guys you're expecting them to score so many points a night. For the NFL, you can't really expect that, right? Like, the way teams defend you is different. What the matchups are and what your advantages are so wildly different. You're not taking so many shots. And at some point, you just have to acknowledge, like, it's not how you're going to beat a given team. Sometimes you're going to run more. Sometimes you're going to pass more. Sometimes it's a complete slog, and you win because of the defensive touchdown or whatever the hell it is. Like, it's just, it's so varied in the way the scoring works. Like, if all of these guys were legitimately happy every single week, they'd be the greatest offense in the history of the league. You know what I mean? Like, they'd all have to have 85 to 100 yards and a touchdown on 9 catches every single week. Jalen's arm's going to fall off. Like, you just can't do it. So thinking about it, like, some of the stuff that they might be mad about, because here's the thing, is that, like, I've said a lot of glowing things about the offense for what they did this week. That's because I saw 2 of each player on the field. But now that I've sobered up, like, looking at it, the thing that's like the problem, they still don't have the quick twitch stuff, right? Not for the most part. It's not really there. Everything in the passing game, Jalen's in the pocket for 5 seconds. And I'll say this, as much as it was a good test, thinking about, playing those receivers and what that can be for San Francisco, you're not getting 5 seconds against San Francisco. You're not getting 5 seconds against the Jets. You're not going to get 5 seconds against plenty of these great teams that they're going to be playing coming up. So, like, they need something faster. They don't have that. And as much as Jalen was more comfortable in the pocket this week, something's got to give still with that. I mean, you just have to have that different answer. And right now they haven't had to have it, but they're going to have to figure it out.
Jalen, the pocket passer, is something that's being kind of undersold, I feel like. I feel like people are still stuck on who he was 2 years ago. That pass that he made to Dallas Goedert in the end zone, where he intentionally didn't lead him, which could have been picked off by the Rams on that play. He split in between the 2 defenders, caught him, did the back shoulder throw. That's a throw he doesn't make 2 years ago. That's a throw that he has progressed so much as a pocket passer. And the one time they actually were able to convert when they were inside the red zone was that. The other play that there was some obvious frustration was the A.J. Brown play where he tried to throw it up for A.J., thought it would be a 50-50 ball. A.J. got behind the defender picked it off at the front of the pylon. That was obviously frustrating. You saw Sirianni and Hurts going at it. But, I mean, what does Jalen always say, dude? He likes to be coached hard. His dad was a coach. He's a coach's son. He brings his lunch pail to work. He's a hard worker. But in
everything.
In all seriousness, like, this is what he has asked for, and this is what they are giving him. This is perfectionism. This is when you win 23 of your last 24 games or whatever it is now. This is what they want to be ready for when they get to that stretch. This is what they want to be ready for when they are playing in January and February, because they are built for that. As I've said time and time again, the line is by far the best offensive line in the NFL. And those, with that in place, and with Jalen and the weapons that he has around him in place, it's only a matter of time. I just hope that I still need to see end to end a dominant game from them in a way that I have seen from the 49ers and I have not seen from the Eagles, to be completely honest with you. I've seen good wins. I've seen taking care of business. I still want to see that we come in, whether it's this week against the Jets or it's during that tough stretch. I just want to see a game where they come in and they prove that they're the dominant team from the jump. I don't want this first half it's tied. I want a wire to wire, just great victory. And I think that this Jets matchup is a really good opportunity for that, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, and for all the critiques I just had, I thought they were this close to having it on Sunday. I thought that's what was going to happen. If you make those 2 big red zone mistakes touchdowns, we're all out here celebrating. Vince probably has tequila in his hand still, and no one's worried. And I'll say this. I think a little bit of perfectionism is in there, but I also think, I guess I still come to this even after 3 years of Nick Sirianni, and yes, I know Shane was very important in this process, but outside of saying RPO and running the football in Jalen's legs and A.J. Brown's awesome, what's the bread and butter of this offense? I still don't have an answer 3 years later. I really don't. I mean, like, the passing concepts seem like they change more than they're established, if that makes sense. Like, that is my biggest bugaboo. I don't think it's the talent. I really don't think it's any of that. I think whatever's happening between Nick, Brian Johnson, AJ, blah, 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 the list goes on. There isn't just like, this is what we do. It's like, this is what we do, and also we improv jazz this, and this. Okay, good game. So I don't know. Would you say that this? I fucking hate using the term identity, but I don't know what their offensive identity really is still.
I understand that. I mean, I personally think that I said it after the Washington game. They just figure out ways to win. And maybe some of that is the fact that they can win in multiple different ways. Maybe they don't want to rely too much on one identity. If something is working in one game, they're going to hammer that to death, like they did when they were able to run the ball against the Vikings. They were just like, all right, we're going to run the ball to death. Tampa Bay game, they were able to run the ball at will. When that isn't working, maybe when they want to establish the passing game early and they're able to, like this, from the jump of this game, it was obvious that they said, we're going to pass the ball on this defense. And from the jump, what did Jalen go 6 for 7 on the opening drive?
Yeah.
Probably one of the best passing halves of his career to start the game. Then I think that they're just going to continue to lean in on that. Now, if the one element of frustration that comes from that is, like you said, when you have your bread and butter, you can kind of rely on that, lean on that. And then when you're in 3rd and 2nd or 3rd and 3 or whatever it is, you're not throwing to Quez Watkins, who has a first down literally if he just cuts straight and runs in a straight line. But because he hasn't been out there and because he is Quez Watkins, he has to frustrate the hell out of us. I guess my question with Quez and just kind of how he fits in this offense. Look, I understand you want to have a guy who is at least in theory a deep threat, a guy who can take the top off the defense, who can kind of, make things easier inside for Dallas Goedert and A.J. Brown and all of that. Totally understand that. But, does he do that? I'm not sitting here watching all 22s. I'm not watching every single play. But during the game, maybe it's just something that I'm completely missing here. But I feel like this guy hasn't made a positive play in what feels like forever, and he's honestly, he just feels like a lost cause to me. And I feel like I don't think they should trade for a slot wide receiver, because I think that either whether it's Zacchaeus or Quez figuring it out or just taking a flyer on someone who could potentially be available, I don't think you probably want to give up a ton of value for the wide receiver position when you have other needs on the team that we've discussed. But how deadly would they be if they were able to just go out and get Van Jefferson just got traded, but Van Jefferson, Hunter Renfrow, one of these guys that you could just put in the slot and just be completely reliable on them. I feel like that would be an incredible improvement for the team.
Oh no, Vince has an idea.
Wait, a reliable guy in the slot? Let me give you an answer, Trill. It's 2 words. It's very simple. Greg Ward. Give me Greg Ward, man.
I thought you were going to say Brent Covey.
No,
it's been brought up a couple of times in our Discord.
I do have a Covey take.
I actually think I think Covey's been. We talked about it early in the season. I said we talked about name a punt returner, kick returner, who's the best in the NFL. Name me 5 of them, and it's not something that really people can do. And I mean, I would be open to giving guys shots. I mean, I don't know if Greg Ward would be the answer, but Covey's at least on the team. He's active every week because of the return game. Why not? Why not give him a shot and see what he can do if this Watkins thing continues to trend in the direction it's been? Because he was good for the team 2 years ago, and he had a down year last year, and this year it's just more of the same for me.
They don't need a deep threat, right? That's the thing that I think is fundamentally misunderstood here too, and it's a great point by you. He whether he's getting the attention or not, they don't need it. A.J. Brown gets open deep. Smitty gets open deep. You don't need that guy. So for them, I don't think it's really an issue. It's just you want reliable players. Zacchaeus fills the role great because he beats the shit out of people, and he's doing it 40 yards down the field. You've got that guy. So you've upgraded there from Pascal. That was really significant. Yeah, you just need a reliable set of hands that won't screw things up, won't get penalized, and will catch the ball when it's caught or when it's thrown his way. That's it. So yeah, for Quez, I don't know if part of it is, they just like the speed for the sake of it still, and they just haven't quite given up yet. He's an NFL receiver. He's just not an NFL receiver here. He doesn't make sense. Let him go to another place. I don't know if you're trading him somewhere, if he has any value. I don't know if they're trying to hold out for a comp pick, and that's the whole idea that, hey, maybe a year from now he's out. I don't know if his contract's up this year or next, but maybe they just want him to walk and get a comp pick. How was the king of that? Yeah. So that kind of thing I think is probably where they're thinking with all of this. But yeah, they do not need him on this team. And for Covey, I think the fascinating thing is, I wonder how much better the blocking's been this year. You know what I mean? Because last year, I think the biggest difference was Covey always wanted to return the ball, and that's his biggest admirable quality this year. But last year when he did it, he was just getting speared all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't anybody's benefit. Yeah, as soon as he caught the ball, he'd just get killed. Now, he held on to it for the most part, but at what cost? So I think that's why everybody hated him last year. And now he's actually got blocking where as soon as he's catching the ball, he's got space and he's getting 7, 8, 9 yards a return, and it's been really helpful. So it's nice to see that kind of progress. I think part of it is just the roster got a lot better on special teams.
Quick question. Jalen has lost as a starter. Jalen has lost in the last 2 calendar years. You can even extend back a little bit further if you go back to the end of the regular season in 21. He's basically lost 2 games, even if you include the Super Bowl. What did Quez Watkins do in both of those games? In a big moment, the Washington game will live in forever in my mind when he has he catches the ball diving, gets back up, fumbles it, obviously blows the game for the Eagles in there. The perfectly thrown pass in the Super Bowl, wide open. He walks in for a touchdown. If he catches it, he drops it near the goal line. I'm not saying that he is completely unfixable, but I just think about how many games Jalen has won, and the 2 moments that really stand out in my mind that could have potentially swung the 2 games we lost both involved Quez Watkins.
Yeah, that's why it's just I don't disagree. I think this offense is kind of and this is probably why Dallas Goedert's in a weird spot. It always had tried to be some form of air raid, right? And I think that's why Quez is just being held on to, and be the John Brown or the Arizona Cardinals where you score a touchdown every 3 games, and that fucking hasn't happened at all. So it does just feel like wind sprints for him, and I'm with you. It's just I don't know, man. If your quarterback doesn't want to throw to you while you're wide open, and you really don't have much value outside of blocking, I'm with you. I don't see the point at all. So
I guess the main thing with all of this is that the majority of guys that are in Quez's role are very similar to Quez. Guys like Van Jefferson and Mecole Hardman, and even if they're just slightly better or whatever, they look at that as, well, maybe Quez can improve in the position and we're not going to give up value to go get that guy. But the Falcons gave up a 6th round pick and got back Van Jefferson in a 7th round pick. That feels fine to me. I feel like I don't have the Howie graph of draft pick evaluations and what they're worth, but that feels like pretty decent value for a guy that is at least going to be playable out of the slot for you. And the reason why he fell out of the rotation with the Rams is because they're stacked at wide receiver now. So let's move on to the upcoming game against the Jets. I said going into this week, I felt like this was a trap game. Talking about the Rams, I feel much more confident about the Jets game. I feel like now one of the things that the Jets have really struggled with so far, and we've talked about Zach Wilson, they barely just beat a Broncos team that is terrible. They had a defensive touchdown in that game as well, so it's not like they were absolutely lighting it up on the offensive end. And Zach Wilson's looked much better the last 2 weeks. I will give him that. I think that he played his best game of his career against the Chiefs in that game that they ended up losing. But one of the things, very similarly to the Rams, is that they cannot protect the quarterback. They have ranked Ben Baldwin, our guy, does his collective rankings across PFF, ESPN for pass blocking and run blocking. They've done a good job in run blocking, but pass blocking, they're currently ranked 28th, 1 spot ahead of the Rams. And they have a quarterback who, when he gets flustered, when he gets pressures, makes a ton of mistakes. He holds on to the ball way too long. Loves to do that thing where he runs 10 yards back and takes a sack for much worse than he possibly should, than he probably should, and tends to turn the ball over a ton. I feel incredibly confident going into this game. They just lost Elijah Verrett-Tucker, who has been one of their better offensive linemen, to my knowledge. And I feel like this is going to be a very fun game for the Eagles defense.
Yeah, you're going to get that game you're looking for, Trill. This is going to be an obliteration. I don't even think Jalen has to throw one pass, and I'm being serious. and they will win this game by double digits handily. Like when I thought Aaron Rodgers, a pretty good offensive line, that defense is going to get. There's no doubt that defense is going to give him trouble early. That's my take. But Jesus, I mean, if I just don't imagine Jalen Carter, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, and all these others losing to Zach Wilson in a banged-up O-line. Just don't see that at all. I too thought this was going to be a loss in the season, but I had Aaron Rodgers still healthy in my mind. So, yeah, Vince, I'm not anywhere nervous, scared, or think this is a trap game. Do you,
Vince? Your Jets,
yeah.
Your New York Jets.
They are my New York Jets. I had a Thomas Jones jersey that just got shipped in like a week ago.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's a great jersey. So anyway, yeah, I mean, look, dude, this game, last time I saw the Eagles and the Jets play, they came to Philly, and I think it was Joe Flacco, or the guy who was behind Joe Flacco, Trevor Siemian, maybe. 10 sacks. 10 sacks.
He's back on the roster, by the way. He might be getting some PTSD on the sideline.
We might see him. We might see him for the whole fourth quarter because this game's going to be a massacre. I mean, I'm just curious who comes out for the Eagles. Is it Tanner McKee or Marcus Mariota? Because it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be ugly. Like you said, Zach Wilson panics. He's a guy that likes to gunsling anyway. That's the only time he's comfortable is when he can just let it rip. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to make a lot of mistakes. The Eagles have better talent pretty much everywhere. They've got one of the best run defenses in the league, and the only thing that makes that offense any good is Breece Hall. That's it. So, like, now with the offensive line injuries and all they're inconsistent on the line anyway. It's just, man, this is going to be so ugly. And, yeah, I mean, this game's probably over by halftime, if you ask me.
And the thing that I always worried about going into the Rams game, despite the fact that their offensive line has had some injuries, they've struggled throughout the season, is, obviously they have weapons, a ton of weapons at basically every position. But more importantly to me, it was they have a veteran quarterback who could stand in the pocket and get throws out quick. And they have a genius play caller in Sean McVay, who has been, when we've run into these combos of great play callers and even average to above average quarterbacks, like we saw in the Washington game a little bit with Bieniemy and Sam Howell, we saw that the teams can move the ball easily on the Eagles. Like I said before, they had to kind of nickel and dime them all the way up the field, but I felt way more confident that Matthew Stafford was going to be able to sit back there and pick apart the Eagles defense. And he did that in the first half, and after they kind of figured things out in that second half, I feel like there's just no chance that Nathaniel Hackett and Zach Wilson figure out something here to put up enough points to keep up with the Eagles offense. I think the Jets are a scrappy team, and if they had listened to me and made an all-in offer for Kirk Cousins after a few weeks,
because now Justin Jefferson, whoopsies.
Yep. You lost Justin Jefferson basically for the season, basically. I mean, he's out for, what they say, 4 to 6 weeks. Justin Jefferson is out.
Yeah.
They look like they could be a team that potentially tanks, and I'm telling you, I don't think they're going to trade Kirk Cousins because it's very rare that teams give up real value for a quarterback halfway through a season. But if there's one team that really could use it, and honestly, we might be showing them why this weekend after he faces this defense. Say what you will about Kirk, but he had a nice game against us, all things considered. He's been incredibly prolific to start the year, and I think that I don't know if you saw the report. That the Vikings did bring in a bunch of guys to work out, including veteran quarterback Colt McCoy. But I thought that was interesting. I'll just leave it at that.
Now they bring in Colt McCoy. It's pretty ridiculous, man. Like it's I was with you 100% too, and like the AFC is a mess because that's what everyone's argument was. Like, oh, the season's over, and you look at like everybody's played like shit. So,
yep,
yeah, I'm with you, and I have. One really last kind of gripe, I guess, towards the trip, and then we can, I didn't know if you wanted to add in with San Francisco or anything like that after the Jets, but ladies and gentlemen, for those that participate in the 420 ceremonies, we are getting ripped off blatantly in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Blatantly. It's absurd. It's $40 for like 100 milligrams of weed out there. It's ridiculous. You pay like 180. Anyway, I just want to say that it was in California. It's so cheap. There's so many places. It was like oh my God, what is this? So, yes, of course I participated in that over the weekend, but just wanted to establish that.
I would
ridiculously cheap out there.
I would never think that California with their taxes, and I guess it's been legal there since before it was actually legal. So it's been legal there since I was like 12. No one cares. So I guess that they have that advantage on them. And we only have we still only have like fucking 5 or 6 shops that you can really access. So I'd imagine that there's a lot more variety out in the state of California, just like when I was in Colorado.
Oh, yeah. Like there's actual fun stuff that you can do with it instead of whatever they're peddling over here. I don't know. Vince Quinn, what did you think of Los Angeles? Other than like we did have that moment and then, of course, like a total LA moment of like some random person that needed some help off the street basically yell at me and say, why are you talking to my boyfriend in the middle of the bar while we're watching the Phillies game? But other than that, like I had a blast, man. I thought LA was great. It was phenomenal.
I saw a naked person on the street my first day. That was great. Let's see what else. I had another guy threaten to shoot me because I didn't pay him walking out of a 7-Eleven.
To be fair, I mean, you got to pay.
Yeah.
And you know who has money? People that shop at 7-Eleven. So, it's a great market. So that was good. What else happened? Yeah, I mean, it was just I lost my phone. That was my fault, but I lost my phone. So there's just a lot of crazy shit out there. I mean, overall, a lot of stuff's overpriced. It's hard to get anywhere. Like LA, I had a good time. But I feel like you have to take 2 trips if you want to do like, one area. Like we were downtown, so downtown versus the beach. It literally has to be a separate trip because it takes an hour to get anywhere. Like it's nuts.
I haven't been to last time I went. I've been to LA 3 times. Last time I went to Venice Beach for a day. And if you've never been to Venice Beach, it is one of the most insane places you'll ever go in your life. The people that are on the streets there are just kind of hilarious characters. And we were walking down the street, and this is off the side of the road. There's just a woman who's probably in her late 60s, I would imagine. And she's just she has a FaceTime camera thing set up with her phone, and she's just doing dabs in the middle of just the main street, like off the side of the road, like hanging outside of her van. I don't know if she lives in her van or what.
Yeah, yes.
But
more
probably,
than likely.
yes, yeah. And she's literally just doing dabs with her friend, and they're like each doing dabs on FaceTime. I was like, where the fuck am I right now? It is a truly insane place. If you've never been to Venice Beach, I highly recommend going just for the characters that you will run into while you're there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it reminded me of like, oh yeah, this is why I left. It was a great place to visit. It's a great place to hang out. The people that we were with were incredible, and like everybody that helped us out, from like Boo's Cheesesteaks, which had us there on Saturday. Which, by the way, if they get a decent roll, that cheesesteak is fucking phenomenal. By the way. The Hank's Beverages, everybody that helped us out, but more importantly, like Tim over at Swoop Nation, who put that amazing tailgate together in the Pink Lot, along with Aaron over at West Coast Swoop Nation, and like we're gonna do many things with them in the future when it comes to the bi-coastal stuff. So I know that they're gonna try and come out with a bunch of people for the Dallas game. Trill, do you want to go to New Orleans next year? Because we already started talking about that.
Yes.
So,
of any city that you guys ever travel to, New Orleans is my favorite city in the country. So I will always be down to go to New Orleans.
Same. And that's what we said too. And like, this never happens, but everything went so smoothly, from the group of people that flew out with us that were hanging out to like the transportation people. Like, couldn't have been better. I know we were just bitching about LA because you're supposed to, because that city stinks.
Of course.
But it was such a fun time. I would go again in an instant with everybody that we traveled with, and I hope we get to do it again soon with you involved this time, because I have a feeling you get real fun when you're possibly have some tequila in your body.
Well, yeah, I definitely do. And, we'll probably be out in California again for the NFC Championship game.
That's right.
Against our 49ers that I wanted to talk about here. So, look, man, I said it through a few games. I said, look, they've looked like the best team, undeniably. Like I said, I want those wire-to-wire wins for the Eagles like the 49ers have been getting. And I felt like they still hadn't played anyone. And they played someone on Sunday night, and they massacred the Dallas Cowboys. First off, let's get this out of the way. How embarrassing is it for Dallas to hype up this fucking game? Since you lost in the playoffs, You have your reporters going on Kay Adams' show and saying they don't really view the Eagles as a threat. The 49ers are their competition. They've been gearing up for this. They know they're ready. They only overlook the Cardinals because they're worried about the 49ers. And then you go out there and you get fucking stomped for 3 quarters after that first quarter was a little bit competitive. Just a complete embarrassment, and why I will never be able to buy into the Sixers of the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, dude, that was to me, I thought the Cowboys had one of the worst off seasons, and no one was talking about it. It was just like, no, this is great. Look at this. Everybody's back. Hype, hype, hype. And just like usual, like, oh, man, the fact that Dak was able to throw 3 interceptions only just makes all of that much better, you know? And it's definitely not all on him, but most of it is. And the debate of that and people picking up the phone to say, please, let's go with Trey or see what's happening. I think Trey starts a game before week 10 for sure. I think there's going to be, yeah, absolutely.
That's a take. We're in week 5. We're now week 6.
There is going to be a hard turn to the right where everyone's going to be talking about Dan Quinn and them drafting high. That team is not good. It is not just an overreaction to San Francisco. That team is not good. Like, it's the worst version of the Eagles that you could be, because like they really struggle in the red zone, and Dak does right now too. And there is no way they're fixing that shit, because Kellen Moore was in charge of that last year, and they don't have anybody there.
And by the way, one of the Chargers have one of the best red zone offenses in the NFL this year. Just throwing that out there. Interesting. I was told Kellen Moore was the problem. That the issue to your problems was going to be letting Mike McCarthy call the plays, who had one of the 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time and won a single Super Bowl in spite of Mike McCarthy. So awesome.
Yeah, good job, everybody.
Vince, any thoughts on the Cowboys here?
Yeah, I mean, they're a total joke, because here's the problem, right? It is an organizational thing from the top down. And when you think about it, one of the things they've been able to do is they've been getting, for, as long as Jerry Jones has been there, they've gotten some of the biggest, flashiest names. That's led into guys that are, not big personalities being some of the biggest, flashiest names. Dak Prescott has been one of those guys. The light has gotten too strong on him, and he's collapsing into himself. I mean, he's had a lot of different problems related to that team, and specifically to Jerry Jones and the kinds of problems that he brings with himself, right? All the national anthem stuff and the back and forth there with his leadership of the team and how he handled those moments. Dak went back and forth a couple of times. Jerry Jones, when he gave him a big contract extension, basically said, no, not basically, he said, probably shouldn't have paid him this deal. I mean,
also said that they wanted to draft Jalen Hurts, but then they just didn't.
That's it. Yeah.
They passed on him. They had the pick. They took Diggs.
Exactly. And that's the kind of stuff that they do all the time. And they're bringing those things up. None of it helps Dak Prescott. What was this whole offseason for Dak Prescott? Hey, guys, I swear I'm not going to throw any interceptions this year. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to throw interceptions. He was destined to throw a billion picks because that guy, with who he's been his whole career in that situation, was set up to fail. I think part of it is, if Dak Prescott was in a smaller market, he'd be a better quarterback. But the fact that he's in Dallas, despite all the talent around him, it's just too much. And now they have paid him, and they missed their window, and that's it. They're cooked. I mean, they're just cooked because they've been surrounded by yes men. Mike McCarthy, yes man. Jason Garrett, yes man. And none of this is going to, it's just never going to go anywhere.
So the Cowboys seemingly not a threat to the Eagles in a way that after the first few games, I was like, all right, they might be able to hang. Clearly, I don't really think that is the case. We're going to see when the Eagles and the Cowboys play that they are not truly a threat. The 49ers, on the other hand, are the only other undefeated team in the NFL. They have the best offense in the NFL right now, I believe. They have the best point differential in the NFL right now, I believe. And John is still yawning over there. You're not impressed with Brock Purdy and the gang?
No, this is the same Brock Purdy we saw the last year before, and everyone's getting hyped up again because, hey, they look like they had a really good shot to possibly beat the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia, and this is all a reaction to that. Everyone keeps saying the same shit, that Brock Purdy is this amazing quarterback. They have literally played the same dog shit teams that the Philadelphia Eagles have, and they have Kyle Shanahan's system will kill bad teams all of the time, crush them. That accordion running thing is genius. Kyle Shanahan is a genius. George Kittle is the fucking man. All of the things that we say about the 49ers, including their defense, are true, except when it gets to the goddamn playoffs. So I don't give a shit what they do. Have them be 17-0, and we'll walk over to San Francisco and ruin their fucking dreams in the divisional round real quick, because they will always overthink themselves every single time. So will Kyle Shanahan. So will Brock Purdy. And that guy is fallible, not infallible. Like, I know he makes decisions really good and correctly. He did that at Iowa State, too. They're not asking him to do much. He's made some incredible throws with windows the size of all of us. You know, like, it's just, I don't know. It's not even... What is impressive about Brock Purdy? Jesus Christ, I'm sick of hearing about him.
What is impressive about this guy? This guy he's one of the best passers in the league, John. He's consistent. He's precise. He's electric. I mean, the guy, for all the things you want to say, is he one of the biggest talents?
I would not say he's electric, to be clear.
Oh, he's when the light bulb was first invented, it was taking over the world. It was the most shocking invention. Yeah, I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, the guy, he's just there every single week. He always shows up. You're getting a consistent product out of him, and that's all they need. He is a superstar for what they need, right? Like, superstar game manager is a term that I've said before. It might not be very popular, but it's the truth. Dak used to be that guy, right? Like, 5 years ago, Dak Prescott was a superstar as a game manager. That's who Purdy is, and that's totally okay. Like, am I trading 3 first-round picks if I'm some franchise to, like, I don't know, have him save my team? No, but for where he is, he's the perfect player for what they want to do, and you got to give him credit for that. So I don't take anything away from Brock Purdy. I mean, I was skeptical, but at some point you play enough games and the guy's just proven it. Like, I don't know what else he needs to do other than the playoff games, which we won't see until he gets there again.
So here's what I'll say. I give Brock Purdy credit. I think that he's been good this year. I think that he also has the easiest job in America. I think he's basically just like being controlled. His mind is being controlled from the sideline by Kyle Shanahan. Like, your first read is open basically every single time in that offense, and it's wide open. I don't see him make a ton of contested throws. Now, occasionally he has. He had one really nice throw. He has 1 or 2 really nice throws per game, and that Cowboys game, I think, was probably his best passing performance that I have seen so far to start his career for sure. I do think we get a little bit bogged down with, like, he was Mr. Relevant, all of that stuff. Like, if he was so great, he would have been drafted higher. He's definitely benefiting due to context for sure. But he's in that context for this season with, if they have good injury luck, if Deebo Samuel doesn't get hurt again, which he seems to do a lot. Christian McCaffrey also has tended to get hurt. If they have the same pieces there, I think they have as good a shot as anyone else, just because I think Brock Purdy's job is, hey, don't fuck up. That's your job. Don't fuck up in the same way that when we got to the higher levels, Jimmy Garoppolo was able to get us there, and then he would just make the wrong play at the wrong time. Just do your job. It's very easy. It's very simplified, and he's been good at it for sure. To quote our friend Steven Ruiz, best friend of the show here, Purdy's turnover throw rate, as charted by Pro Football Focus, is identical to those of Jordan Love and Sam Howell, who have both thrown 12 interceptions combined to start the season. Purdy has yet to be picked off the entire season. He has 0 interceptions and has as many worthy throws as Jordan Love and Sam Howell, who each basically, I think they have 6 each. Also, in terms of accuracy rate, he is in between Baker Mayfield and Justin Fields to start the season. So I'm just saying, I think that Purdy has been good at his job. I think his job is simplified. I think that he has a much easier time than a lot of these guys. But I'm not going to sit here and act like Brock Purdy's one of the 5-10 best quarterbacks in the NFL until I see him face some adversity. So I'm doing the centerist thing here, which is kind of annoying, but I feel like he's good enough to win, but I don't think he can win for you, is my thing. And I don't think he might not have to in this offense. I think having a perfectly above average quarterback to good quarterback, maybe a top 12 or 15 guy in the NFL, might be good enough to win a Super Bowl on that stack roster. But I don't think he's going to be the reason they do it. So I'm very excited for Eagles 49ers, especially because they have to come to Philadelphia. I hope both teams are healthy so we can finally see what this really looks like, because I would love to give Brock Purdy his first regular season loss of his career, and I would love for both teams to go undefeated into that game and see who truly is the class of the NFC.
Can't wait for that. Yeah, I'm all about that. I'm dreaming for that. It's the best scenario, right? 49ers fans hate the Eagles so much now.
Yep.
And it's just a constant war out there. That's the only best thing. Like, the NFL needs to rig every game until that game. I think that's the only solution.
Roger Goodell, if you're listening, please tap in all of the refs on every crew, because we need to see both those teams heading undefeated into that game. It would be an absolute movie. I'm very excited. Excited for this week. And then the real fun begins, because the schedule gets much, much harder after this week, even though that Buffalo Bills game is looking a little bit easier because they've had an unfortunate amount of injuries on their side. So we're all feeling good. Eagles victory this week against the Jets. No problem.
No problem. And yeah, man, I'm just looking forward to talking again next week with being 6-0 and still being pissed off about something. So.
Let's go. All right. Thanks. Peace.
Later, guys.